So I realized whenever everyone else is going through their slides that I neglected to put an objective slide, so I'm going to talk about that on this slide. But my practicum was in the Center for Academic Enrichment and Excellence, not in the college success programs like the tutoring side that we often hear about, but in their pre-college and pipeline initiatives. So getting to work with students before they get into the college setting. Now I did do some work on the success side as well through the Presidential College Enrichment Grant, but most of the work that I did was through college access. And it was really exciting for me because this is a field that I've always been really interested in. What I was really wanting to get out of this experience in terms of what my objectives were, I really wanted to get some admin planning experience because that was something that I had had in residence halls but never on a larger scale. I wanted to make sure that I got experience in understanding more about the field in general in terms of, what does college access look like? How does it go beyond just the federal programs that I had knowledge of already, which were like Upward Bound Trio, and how does that work at the institutional level? And also just some general professional development. So I was really excited about the opportunity to attend some conferences that related to the field throughout the course of the practicum, and also the ability to just learn more about different student populations that we serve through these initiatives. So it was very exciting for me to have the opportunity to work in a field that wasn't necessarily within student affairs, but what are we doing with students before they even get here to help them succeed. So my previous experiences and my disposition prior to coming into this practicum, like I said before, I really had a good knowledge of some college access programs in terms of federal programs. I worked with the Ohio College Access Network last year during my period working at Washington State Community College. So I really had a lot of previous background knowledge on sort of what we do already in terms of like federal programs to help get our students to come to our institutions. But I also had other positions that sort of helped me throughout the practicum as well, beyond just having the general knowledge. I did have presentation skills that I had to develop during a resident advisor position, as well as through my position at Washington State. I already had experience working with pre-college student populations because while at Washington State, I did a lot of academic advising for a program in Ohio called Post-Secondary Options, which is where high school students come to the college setting to actually, take college classes at the college. So I had a lot of experience, advised well over 50 students, and had a lot of experience with sort of what their concerns were, and just some good general background experience there. I also taught classes on college success strategies, and that really came into being a big help whenever I was working with the PSEG grant, because that was working with a student population that was in college already. And I got to take this opportunity to present to that group, so that was very helpful there. And I had a disposition coming into this strong commitment to equal access and success for students. I'm a first-generation student myself, and I really believe that college sort of changed my direction in life completely. Faced a lot of barriers getting to college because my family wasn't really supportive, and so I sort of know some of these background issues, and that really made me committed to this field before I even came in. So I'm talking about, when I made this presentation, I want to talk about my growth in knowledge in terms of what I have done. And so my growth in knowledge really came from the activities that I was able to perform through this practicum. The big achievements that I consider are the ones that I have listed up here, and that is, the first one is the Presidential College Enrichment Grant. And I don't know if any of you are familiar, but this is a program that has been offered to Virginia for a while now that offers minority students the opportunity to come to Virginia Tech through a grant program. And it was very helpful for me to get the opportunity to experience this because it was one of those ways, how are we supporting the students that get into college access programs once they're at Virginia Tech? And so I got to sit in on those meetings. After shoe shot class on Tuesday night, I would go to those meetings once a month and have the opportunity to sort of sit in and see what sort of topics were being discussed. And during the last one, I actually had the opportunity to go and present my knowledge to the group. I got to talk about sort of how to use your skills more effectively, the skills you've built in college more successfully whenever you're going out to look for an actual job after graduation. Because a lot of the time, students don't really realize that what they've done has a big impact, even if it's not directly related to what's on that job position description. So I really got the opportunity to sort of share my experience there, and it was very helpful for me to sort of see that my experiences matter and that what I have done can help other students sort of understand their place in the world. It was very effective. I also had the opportunity to work with an Achievable Dream Academy. If you haven't heard about this institution, it's located in Newport News, Virginia. It is a charter school in that it brings in students from the surrounding Newport News area and brings them to a school that is very focused on student access and student success to college, gets them prepared for a different path in life than what they would have been if they had been in a traditional public school in that area, because a lot of the time it can just be really difficult for those students to find success in that environment. They create a very, very structured but a very, very enriching environment for these students. They really believe in giving them a quality education and going beyond even just the classroom into teaching them things like how to play tennis, because that is the sport of the rich and famous world in some ways. So it's a very interesting philosophy on education, but we had the opportunity, and that's what the picture on this side is, to actually lead an activity, a college access activity at Achievable Dream. We helped them make boats out of aluminum foil and float them with, you see how neat they could get like rocks to hold up. It was an engineering activity, and I had the opportunity to work with a student at Virginia Tech in creating that activity, so it was very, very exciting. I got to learn about VIPCOI, which is sort of our Virginia Indians outreach initiatives. They're a very, very small population at Virginia Tech and in the state in general. But how are we reaching out to those students? And I got to go to a conference relating directly to that, VINCI, and that really just sort of expanded my knowledge about sort of how we can reach those students and how we have to be careful about generalizing about those students. And I go into that a little bit more in this position. And finally, I got to do more with Virginia Tech's general outreach initiatives. So I had the opportunity to participate in a couple of school visits and a group visit that came in. I got to work with Pennsylvania County, which was a school district that came into Virginia Tech, and sort of got to be there all day as they were going through all of the stuff that we were putting out there for them, helping to keep everything in line, which is honestly a lot harder than it sounds when you're dealing with a giant group of students and you're trying to keep everything in order. So just seeing that sort of process play out was very, very helpful, and sort of grew my knowledge of sort of what really needs to happen whenever you put an event like that. So in terms of skills, I think one of the biggest things that I got out of my entire practicum experience was just the ability to present, and especially in preparation, because I have presented for classes before, but this was the PSEC presentation in particular, which is the picture that I have listed here, was really a way for me to show that I can prepare without having any sort of a prompt. You know, I was just sort of said, go out and figure out something that will be helpful for our students based on what you've seen so far. So it really gave me confidence that I can do that, being able to prepare this presentation, and planning the presentation, and also just presenting it to these students, and sort of figuring out a way to keep them engaged, because I had seen some of our presenters sort of lose the student engagement as we went along. So trying to figure out a way to keep the students engaged in the material without necessarily making it like, you know, too fun and not enough material. So I really wanted to make sure that I made an effective presentation, and I got comments afterwards from the students that I did. So it really made me feel good about you know, my overall skill percent. But it's still a growth area for me. And this was also my first experience going to VINCI, which was part of the VIPCOI. Going to VINCI was one of my first experiences in going to a professional conference. So just having that experience was great for me, because I'd never had the opportunity to sort of see what networking looks like in that you know, context, and just sort of how to be a professional at a conference. And so I really got a lot of good experiences in terms of just learning about how to do that entire process. And access event coordination. And this was probably one of my biggest wake-up calls, because it is such a huge process, and I mentioned multiple times throughout the practicum that coordinating is really what it's all about, and cooperating with different units on campus. So that was what I got there. So in terms of growth and disposition, it really solidified my commitment to student access and success programs. I think that we do a lot of work to get students in, and I think the success piece is just important. But we need to make sure that, you know, getting students into college is important, but also supporting them once they're here is also important. So this solidified that commitment. It also gave me a greater understanding of the American Indian student subpopulation, and mostly because I realize now that they're not one population. There are so many different subpopulations within that group. It's not just, you can't just say this is what works for all American Indian students, because they're a huge population. So that was something that really changed my mindset, and that's why I included this position. Areas for growth. I think the biggest thing out of all of this was I really think I should take more initiative in understanding how my sub-area fits within the unit, and the mission of the unit, because it does, but I didn't ask enough questions about that, and I think that was something I really wanted to, my big area for growth. Of course, I'm undecided in my career path, like many of us, but I have a lot, and I think all of these areas that I have listed here, academic advising, retention services, access and success services, and housing residence life, what I got from this experience is going to help me no matter where I end up going. Because having that experience in presenting, in programming, conference attendance, and just access and success programs in general, knowing where my students are coming from, even if I'm working at the college campus level, is going to be a big help to me. So I really found this practicum very helpful, and I want to thank Alicia for everything she's let me do and all the guidance she's given me this semester.